on India as the most favorable shooting destination. I'd like to call upon our moderator, Mr. Sunny Sodhi, Chief Operating Officer, OYO, and he will be joined by our speakers, Mr. R.K. Selvamani, Director and President, Directors Association, Mr. A. Vijay, Director, Mr. Manish Mundra, CEO and Founder, Drishyam Films, Ms. Pooja Sharma, Chairman, Sikkim Film Promotion Board.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this session. My name is Sunny Sodhi. I work with OYO. As we know what we're going to discuss, so India is the most favorable shooting destination is the topic of discussion today. I think what I saw yesterday as a starting point, the first session was a very important one, wherein we saw the INB ministry and the tourism ministry coming together and actually, talking about initiatives that will actually make this happen. How can we make India as the most favorable destination? If you look at, the country, clearly we all know that we have some fantastic locations, historical locations that really kind of play an important role for the film production houses to kind of head there and make wonderful movies that they've been doing. The other important thing, and again, that was talked about yesterday, was that I think in the last couple of years, we've seen central government and states coming up with some very lucrative plans for the production houses. Whether it's offering fast track approvals, whether it's offering rebates, or whether it's making sure that the interesting and exciting hotspots are open for shooting. I think these are some of the steps that have kind of helped to kind of make this. Make actually India as a favorable destination. I think the other thing that we need to probably do is that while we've had a good start here, we've done some of these things. Today, what we want to discuss and understand is how can we kind of take this journey forward and make actually a solid impact. The question that we all need to kind of ask ourselves is: are we really ready, prepared to be, competing with countries like Switzerland, Spain, Thailand, because they've made a solid impact in this segment. So while the journey has just begun, to be very honest, I think we'll have to do some more work to kind of feature in those top 4 or 5 countries to be a part of those sought after destinations for film shooting. So with this, I would actually get into the Q&A that we've kind of lined up. So, Mr. Selvamani, my first question is to you. So, what changes have you witnessed in terms of infrastructure changes? Whether it's in terms of, let's say, connectivity or the labor support that you need. What are some of the changes that you've seen in the last couple of years?
Good afternoon. Last couple of years, now only we are trying to build infrastructures in India. Because we have everything in India. There are two things. Are we going to invite the foreigners to India, or we are going to instruct or advise our people what do you want, why are you going to outside of India? There are two things. Because first, India is the large producer of film overall the world. But most of our people are going to the other nations to shoot some other things because they don't know what we have. First, Indian government or tourism department or who are concerned people, they asked to educate or instruct or spread the knowledge of what we have first. That is our first agenda or first point. Because I'm the director, I hunt locations more than months. For one films, I travel nearly 60,000 kilometers only from South India. I travel 4.5 months by car, but not every other. By car I traveled. I traveled every routes because I did one film named Captain Prabhakaran. That is a forest smuggler, Veerappan, is a sandalwood smuggler story about him. I traveled every forest. So we have, what kind of forest you need? We have. You want to shoot like emerald forest? We have. Any kind of forest. So any kind of sea. We have Maldives or Malaysia or whatever island you need. We have Andaman because nobody knows what is in Andaman. It has blue beach, it has white beach, it has black beach, it has everything. Like that. In Karnataka, you have Jog Falls or Murdeshwar, or in Goa you have Dudhsagar. Whatever things you want, you are having in your own country, but nobody knows about that. Everybody is going out. So first, I request the government to, like now every state they are trying to attract our other peoples, other states. It's a quite a good start of the film industry of Indian government also, for the film industry also, because it may cut the expenditure, or it may develop the local employment. That is the first thing about the locations. Other labor thing. Now we are trying. I am the president for the Film Employees Federation of South India. We have nearly 25,000 people under us. So now what we are doing, we are educating every week 100 people. We are bringing a lot of technicians from other state or other countries. We are giving lectures, we are doing workshops. What are the other countries has, or other developed countries has, the technical. We are teaching them. So last, not couple of years, more than couple of years, it started around 2015. Now, there is one thing, after Corona effect, Corona may be a problem for the country, but it was a good thing for the film industry, because everybody visit or everybody is seeing the other national films by OTT platforms. So everybody is knows what is going on or what is other films. Even either they are speaking Spanish film, any not only English film. Every films they are seeing. So when we start now. We should start. If it is old one, our audience will not see it. So we have to educate ourselves. We have to give the good thing, or we have to compete with the foreign national. Even with showing the screen only, they will switch off the thing. So it is very difficult for us, for our Indian technicians, because the budget, it's difficult for us to get the everything. But we are trying with our brain, or with our labor thing. We are trying and we are educating him. And now they are educating. They are in other couple of years, within 2025, definitely they will challenge any other nations.
Got it. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is discovery is an issue. You spend far more time in finding...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I told you, no, I travel only for one film, I travel 60,000 kilometers. I travel northeast, I traveled to north side of Manali, Leh, everything, and even Gujarat, Rajasthan, and every state, India, I traveled. Every state, every part of the country, I know what kind of location is. Because I did only one film in foreign, that too in Maldives. That time, I don't know about Andaman. After I shot the film, one of my friends told me, he was working in Doordarshan at Andaman. He told me, just you come, why are you going to Maldives? He said, just you come. I went there, I was staying more than 21 days. I traveled there are 2,000 islands in Andaman. Only 40 to 45% of islands were only occupied by the people. That are the other islands are virgin islands. Some islands it is restricted for even Indian national also. But there are a lot of islands. It will challenge to the Maldives or Malaysia, Phuket Island, wherever you, what island you name it, you can have in Andaman.
Right.
So we have to discover it. The government or Andaman union or state, it should attract the local first. Inviting other nationalists is the second thing. First, they have to give the idea of the own country. Because here we are producing nearly 600 to 800 films per year. If the 100 people goes, definitely Andaman will develop. And, even it will be budget saving for the Indian film industry.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Mr. Vijay. Hi. Have you seen any changes on the state participation front? So we're talking about to kind of make India as a more favorable destination, right?
Yeah.
To shoot. Have you seen changes? What are those changes, and
Yeah.
what is it that you think is probably needed more to kind of get to the level that we all want to get to?
Yeah. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Vijay, a film director from South India. Thank you for having me here. I think when you come to talking about India shooting locations, India is one country, it's like unity in diversity. Even the locations falls that way because we have different cultures. If you look at from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, we have different terrains and kind of different locations we have. You name it, we have it. It's like that. You want waterfalls, you have mountains, you have deserts, like as sir mentioned, forest, anything. So till people actually started exploring Indian locations more now, especially after Roja, when nobody expect the Kashmir can be explored so well. No, the Roja film is completely eye-opener for a lot of filmmakers in India. That we can also go and explore this kind of locations. Like that, I can say there are several films. What I personally feel is, though we have everything, as you mentioned in the last thing, we should have a clean infrastructure. Basically, it will come in one point. If like each state, like now, Pooja ma'am is here from Sikkim, so today she is giving us a link. So like every state should have one film commission board, and they all should be linked together. So once they all link together, they can have that own line producer. They can suggest us, like how we shoot in a foreign everything. So they can suggest us the line producers. So they can be in the one chain. So for any filmmaker, if I want to access tomorrow, if I want to shoot a location where I want a waterfall, I don't want to go and search. So I should have that link available for me in the chain of list of locations what we have in India. So if that infrastructure can be formed, it will be very easy for a filmmaker, and it can be easy for explore, and we can directly do recce, other stuffs. But India is one of the very, very good place to shoot, because I've shot everywhere, and it's amazing to explore. As I said earlier, it is because we have different culture, and each state has no different entity actually on its own. So we get a lot of differences in each terrain in terms of even visual quality. Even if you shoot in Bombay, even you shoot in Kerala, the complete textures are different. Visual textures I'm talking about. Of course, I've shot recently in Saranpur, Satara, some time back. It's completely different terrain. I felt I was in somewhere in the period. So you just need to put everything together in one form, kind of a thing. And I think one person has to be taken care, or one organization has taken care, so that the filmmakers can easily explore and can be a most favorite place.
Perfect. Thank you. By the way, loved your last movie, Thalaivi.
Thank you.
It was a fantastic movie.
Thank you.
Sir, I want to add one more thing. There may be a request for the states also, because getting a permission from the state government, it will be more difficult for us. We feel it's more difficult. Moreover, we are exploited by the mediators or the officials. They're thinking that they are doing some favor to the film people. They are always envy about the film people. They are not, they are not cordial with us. I don't know what is that mentality. Whenever the film people goes their egos. They ask us to wait outside or keep outside. Whatever they're harassing some kind of harassment we are going through. So they should understand. They are not helping the film people. We are showing their state to the world. They first understand. They should help us. They make one single window system. If we go to Sikkim, in one building, we should get everything. If we want to go to Manali, in one place, we should get everything. We are facing a lot of problems by the mediators, even by harassment by the government officials. So I'm not blaming everybody, but this is a request. In other nations, last couple of months before this, gentleman, Mr. Prasad, he conducted a film festival at Bangalore. He brought nearly 30 to 40 countries consulate there. Everybody is requesting us, please come to our country. We are doing this, we are doing that, we are doing that. What is this? The other nations are helping the Indian film industry. They are not helping us. Indirectly, they are growing. If somebody didn't went to the Switzerland, it may not be discovered by the other even to India, because it was quite popular for the Indian because of our South Hindi films. So our state government should understand. They should help the film industry, or whether they are coming from south or northeast or west, wherever it is. If we're going to the government officials, we should get respect, cordial relationship. So we should not get exploited by the people, mediators, or the harassment by the state government officials. It is my humble request.
Any state government that comes close to your expectations?
Now 2-3 states. Now Jharkhand. Now Vijay told me in the morning, Sikkim is starting a lot of things. I don't know whether she's going to come here. He's told him in the morning, Sikkim is doing a lot of things. Because my first request is Kerala government and Karnataka government and Rajasthan government and Himachal. Here, very often we are going, very often going. So they should help us.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Manish, coming to you.
Hi.
So you've shot extensively in the hinterland of the country, right? So Newton is a brilliant example, right? What really inspired you to go there and shoot? What did you see that the others didn't?
First of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for having me here. At Drishyam Films, we make films which have story told by the heart, and it has a soul. And soul, I think, of a story when we shoot also culminates from the location where we go and shoot. For example, as you quoted Newton was a story of Chhattisgarh, of the area which was Naxalite hit, and how democracy was restored in that place. And it was based on a true incident which actually happened in that particular space. So it was our decision that we go and shoot in Chhattisgarh, into the dense jungle of Chhattisgarh, and that same place where the Naxalite hit region, and that booth where one election officer went there and got 70 votes out of nowhere, and that showed the strength of democracy of India. And so we decided to go there and shoot, and it actually did impact onto the film, and it was loved by everyone. And actually we won in Berlin International Film Festival, and then we also represented India in Oscars entry that year. But I'll extend that whole thing to forward. Like, when we started making films right from Makondeki, we shot through Delhi. And if you see the film, it talks about and shows you the inner aspects of Delhi, the stories of Delhi. To Masan, where we went and explored all of Banaras. To Dhanak, where we explored of Rajasthan and especially Jodhpur and Jaisalmer. Similarly, Waiting, we went and explored the whole of Ernakulam and Cochin area. Just now I came back shooting a film, Sia, which is my first directorial debut. I shot in small town of Uttar Pradesh in Pratapgarh, actually, and and the story is about Bahubalis and all, and we were able to shoot it in that place to get the texture and the feel of the film. So the point I want to drive is that when we take a story from a particular state, it's better to go and shoot in that state to the same place to get the character of the film across. And that's exactly what is our challenge as India to present to the world. That as far as location is concerned, of course, we do have. The most important thing in outside world and the films what we make is also that more than 50% of the shoot also happens indoor. We should create those infrastructure, not only on the location, but also those infrastructure across India, spread across India, which should help foreign filmmakers and Indian filmmakers to do their job at one particular hub when it comes to indoor shooting. And that will create a lot of help and it will ease out the process of shooting. Even if, and that hub should also link it. Then the other aspect which I was thinking when I was walking in was most of the films now, whether it's international or national, has a lot of visual effects into it. One important aspect what we Indians can do, and in India we can do, is we are best in technology, especially superpower in software development and VFX and almost all the Hollywood films visual effects are done back home in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, in Bombay. So this has to be brought up and then sold as if it's not only a shoot location but also finishing location. And the economics are very simple. A film, as far as visual effects as well as finishing, editing, and other aspects of the film, if you do it in Europe, if it's $1 million plus, it will be 1/10 in India. That's the biggest economics we can sell to the world. And that's where the whole game is. Of course, shooting in a location has a cost that can be 20-30%. But majority of the cost nowadays, because the visual effects, because the technicalities involved, the post-production things, is that. And that is the big chunk of economics. And that's almost, even if you bring in 100 such films in India, it will easily mean $1 billion of exposure. And that's where government needs to focus on creating these hubs where we can have an indoor shoot and also hub for all this technical, work with whether it's related to post-production, dubbing, visual effects, and all those things. That will attract more investments, and that will actually make India as one of the epicenter for international shoots.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Manish. Ma'am, coming to you. So Sikkim bagged the award for being the most film-friendly state, right, last year. What is it that you implemented, to achieve this feat? And what are some of the things that you're doing in the coming years?
Namaste, warm greetings. Firstly, thank you for having me here. Sikkim won the 67 National Award as the most film-friendly state. And it is a great achievement for us because it's the second smallest state in India, which is just of 7,096 square kilometers. And having said that, still, it's like earlier, if you see, Sikkim was far more not reachable through connectivity, or maybe in film line, it was not much ahead. But now if you see, there are lots of films coming and approaching the government, and there are lots of filmmakers making films in Sikkim. And Sikkim is a reservoir of natural resources. Yeah, it offers natural beauty with beautiful landscape and snow-capped mountains, colorful valleys, lakes, rivers, and you have varieties. You have half the Sikkim portion is towards the east and north. You have white covers which is filled with snow, and towards west and south of Sikkim it's lush greens. So you have a film set, a natural film set in one platform in the entire state, So and to ease out more on filmmakers coming there shooting, we try to do the Sikkim government under the dynamic leadership of Shri Prem Singh Tamangoli sir. So what he did firstly, from my viewpoint, was constituted a film board, Sikkim Film Promotion Board, right? So then he created, the government created a film policy which was quite, lucrative and which looked quite friendly to the filmmakers. And it also offers a good amount of subsidy schemes. Like there is a subsidy scheme of Indian 1 crore for a filmmaker who would come shoot in Sikkim, just under 2 criterias. That is like 75% of the film has to be shot in Sikkim and 50% of cast and crew to be used as locals. Yeah, and those kind of initiatives were taken. Other than that, we also had a Global Film Festival 2020, which was quite a success. And we have made it as a calendar event, and we will be doing that every year. And that attracted, or maybe those people who were not aware about a small Himalayan region, towards the northeast, got to know or became aware of such place, and now it's identified. Lots of people are just now become more warm, and they feel that it's such places should be. Otherwise, only places like Kashmir and Shimla were highlighted, but now they would be like, yeah, like Vijay sir. Yeah, when I came, Sir was already telling his colleagues about Sikkim, right? Because he's heard that, yeah, Sikkim government is ready to give such kind of schemes, or maybe making it very easing out on the filmmakers. So they would want to come and experience that, or maybe shoot at least once. So we did such kind of things and made it like very investor friendly, filmmakers friendly, directors friendly. So maybe because of the very reason we got backed with the award. And we are yet to, about the infrastructure development, we are yet to, because see, we are still new to it. And in this 2 years period of time, we've done quite a lot, I think that was unseen earlier because Sikkim not just caters to the need of Sikkim, but other states as well. Like we are 8 states in the northeast. So Sikkim is the first state which has taken this step of having or developing or setting up of eco-heritage film village. It's a film city, but we are giving this name. Our chief ministers announced the name as Eco Heritage Film Village, wherein we'll be having these studios, we'll be having a writer's retreat, starting from pre-production to production to maybe post-production. We're trying to build in certain things, So when the government itself is so much, full of vision and, they understand, like not just Sikkim. I want to give credit to the UP government. I think Yogi Adityanath ji, I think, took a very bold stand of having a regional, focusing more on the regional cinema and having own film city in UP. I think that was a great move. So likewise, now Sikkim is taking this initiative, sir, and we are looking forward to working more on how to make it, or how to do ease of business with the film fraternity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for all the good work that you've been doing. I think I've heard some great stories. So more power to you. Just a question. So when it comes to, let's say, the requirement is 75% of the movie being shot in Sikkim, which would mean, an average time of maybe anywhere between 20 days to 60 days, depending on the budget of the movie, right? In terms of accommodation, hospitality, are you also providing any support to people who are coming and shooting in Sikkim, or it's to them to kind of go and manage it on their own?
Yeah, we have, along with the film board, we have a film facilitation office, a branch, which the government of India initiative, Film in India, and other initiatives such as, film creation of film facilitation office under NFDC. So similarly, we are working on the same pattern like GOI, Ministry of INB. So Ministry, our Department of IPR has created, it's under the Department of IPR. So we have FFO, wherein we have a single window clearance system, wherein all the liaison work, all the permission will be facilitated through the film board itself with FFO. And yeah, it's not just not just investor friendly, but it is a place, a point wherein lots of skilling can be done. So for skill development also we're working, because we are very much new, like senior filmmakers like them could, if they could come and groom our people, the locals out there in our region, so it will be very much an added advantage, or maybe it would benefit all of us, on both the parties, for filmmakers who could come, because it will be a burden for them to get all the crew and come long journey, that traveling accommodation, like you said. Yeah, we are also working on, and we are trying to, what I have approached the government for is trying to make Sikkim a free shooting destination. All the location will be provided free of cost, and we will be helping all the permissions, and for the logistic parts, hotel accommodation, and because it will help the travel industry as well. So we will try to do as much as subsidies possible for that.
Great. So we should definitely connect. As OYO, we are always looking at opportunities to kind of partner, and offer accommodation to our film production houses. In fact, I'll just take 2 minutes to kind of brief that our journey, in terms of association with the film production houses started many years back. But I think, after the first wave, when things were kind of opening up, we actually came up with a very unique proposition, which was actually creating a bubble of sorts, and not only saying that we were an accommodation service provider, but we became an accommodation stroke logistics service provider, where we created a bio bubble right from, the film crews, COVID testing, booking hotels, booking equipment vans, booking buses, and creating that bio bubble. So our journey started from there, and today, after probably 2 years, in December we were supporting almost 36 shoots that were going across the country. We work with more than 300, film production houses. So right from the big production, Bollywood production houses, Dharma, Bansalis, all of them work with us. So, there's a lot of opportunity that we also see to kind of, come forward and work with states and work with you, sir, to make sure that your journey in producing a movie is absolutely seamless. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Mr. Selvamani, coming to you, the rise of OTT, right? We've been hearing about the content that's getting created, right? Have you seen any changes post this? Has it made your life simpler? Has this kind of made any impact, significant positive impact in the journey of filmmaking?
I didn't catch it.
So I'm saying the advent of OTT. So there's so much of content that's getting prepared. So I'm saying, is it aiding you to, in any way, to simplify the journey of film production?
Yes.
Or it's still the same?
No. The OTT is really very much helpful to the technicians now, because nowadays, previously, I should go to the producer. He asked us to go to the hero. I have to go to the hero and I have to convince him. And according to his wish or his prejudice, he will choose or he will reject. That is my fate in the last decades. Now, it's very demand for the content and for the creators, real contents and real creators. So it is a very much good development for the film industry. Film industry, it will grow like anything in the another decades, another 5 to 10 years. It's grow now. I think it's 20 to 25,000 crores of per annum, and it will reach nearly 1 lakh crores of per annum. It will reach another within couple of years or maybe more, maximum 5 years. So now even we started finding the content from our. I am president for the Directors Association. Now, I requested all my directors who are having contents, please give your contents. Now, really, 600 people, they have registered their contents. Now, we approach the service provider. He is one of our friend is Mr. Prasad, and his son, one is Alangar Pandian. Like this, there are a lot of people. They are going to produce nearly 10 films. They never asked who is the hero and what is the budget. They never. We form a content, we get a content, and we send the content to these people. I sent him for nearly 50 contents. He selected 10. So I gave the opportunity to 10 of our creators. Now they are going to produce a film. So really, now it's a very demand for the real technicians and real contents. So we no need of going to the hero's house or producer's house, whatever. I'm not blaming anyone. Now the situation is, we can do wonders. We can do contemporary films. Even with a small knot we can do. There no need of comedy, fight, action, vulgarity, sex, or no need. If I want to make a good film, I can make now. There is a possibility now. That is see, because of OTT, it's happened now. Thanks for the OTT.
So content is king. Content is the real hero, right?
Real hero is next. First, the producer rule the industry. Next, distributor rule the industry. Next, technician rule the industry. Heroes rule the industry. They spoil the industry. Don't rule the industry. They spoil the industry. Now the content is going to rule the industry. It is good for the film industry of our country.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vijay, moving to you. So travel and hospitality, play a very important role, right? Whether it's traveling within India or abroad, right? It's extremely important. What are your thoughts in terms of this segment? Is it structured and, helps you in kind of not thinking too much about this, right? It's kind of taken care of. Is it structured, or you think there's...
Especially when you're shooting out of your state. Suppose I'm from Tamil industry. If I'm not shooting in Tamil Nadu, even Tamil Nadu, if you're not shooting in Chennai, definitely a travel and accommodation is a must for a shooting crew. So what is most important is, it is a producer and line producer's job to get access to all this local places and get the best of the team. So 2-3 important factors in this. It's basically where you're shooting, how far the location from where you're staying. It is very important. There are some places where we shoot. Suppose I was shooting a film in Ooty, so I should travel 1.5 hours every day. Because the line producer couldn't able to get the hotel close to our location. So suppose I want to shoot 6:30 first shot, I have to start 4 o'clock from my hotel and to take the entire crew. It's a big challenge. So I feel things are better now. Because the line producer is playing a vital role these days. If you agree on it, sir? Yes, sir. So line producer definitely playing a vital role. Since he's a producer, I was just asking him. So those line producers are playing the very crucial part in this kind of things. As a filmmaker, we want to have less stress. We want to go to access to the set as soon as possible. When we wake up, we want all our energy to execute the shoot, not in traveling. So we definitely prefer that, to be well structured. And it's more of a line producer job than a creative job.
Sure. Any specific asks that you have of, let's say, the airlines and hotels?
See, especially when you're shooting, you're not going for a holiday.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
You're going for work.
Yeah.
So you actually going to eat your bed when you're tired. That's it. Our purposes of going to bed is only that.
Right.
Just to sleep. Because you're going to be in the set or you're going to be in the planning.
Right.
Especially when you're shooting, you're not in a holiday.
Yeah.
So all we need is just a good place, and also a very place which is very accessible to the locations where you're shooting.
Right. Understood. Thanks. Thank you. Manish, moving on to you. So Abu Dhabi has become a great shooting destination, I think, for all, not only Indian production houses, but even international. Big movies are getting shot there. 2 things that come to your mind that they've done extremely well, and you would want, let's say, India to kind of replicate that.
One thing, the first one is, of course, the information desk, whatever you call it may be virtual desk or anything. So if I have to know anything about Abu Dhabi's policy, it's very easy for me to get across and get all the information on my laptop, on my phone, or even anywhere through social media. That is one aspect, that the communication to the target customers has to be very, very clear and very, very detailed one. So one thing which India should do is of course to create a channel of communication, notes, and these notes are across through consulate journals where India has offices, embassies, to the state capitals, and of course the commercial hub of the country. We should have offices and should have this communication portal to be very, very detailed one and very interactive. So anybody sitting in Switzerland or even in Hollywood wants to shoot anything anywhere in India, in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, should know exactly what the location, whom to contact to, what are the places where he can go and other things. So this network requires investment. And that's where government has to do one important thing, is to invest in creating this portal of information with notes across the embassies, the capital, and of course various major film festivals across the world should also be represented very well to communicate to the potential investor. That's one thing, which is very crucial. Nobody talks about it, but this is very important, because to motivate us, a filmmaker, especially, the director comes second. First is the one who goes for Reiki. They come back and say, okay, these are the probable places, and then director chooses one amongst them, right? So those people need information fast, quickly, and in the easiest possible way to bring the options out. So that's one investment channel which India should look into, and that will help India to greater extent to attract the potential filmmakers. That's number one. And then, of course, is a single window clearance. So once people are convinced that, okay, let's go to India and shoot, or let's go to this particular state and shoot, the approval process should also be very fast, very, very easier and fast tracked through a single window. Because as far as connectivity within India, outside the world to India, hotel stays and all are almost sorted. Like I think India has done great in terms of road network, in terms of air connectivity, in terms of hotels, in terms of accommodation. But the clearances to reach to the place and to have to identify, that also needs to be done in a very unified manner. Of course, each state will try to attract with their own respective state policies, but then there should be a unified policy, unified clearance across India, which should be linked to the respective states. So anybody sitting in Hollywood or in Canada or in London or anywhere, they can come down and shoot. Like, for example, I'll give you a small example. It's a very interesting example. Wildlife, the diversity of wildlife what India has, no country in the world has, And most of the wildlife films which are shot, is a huge budget. It would be more than $20 to $30 billion annually. That's the amount of money which goes into the wildlife films and documentaries go to Africa. Okay, so it doesn't come to India. But India has almost all the varieties, all the jungles, all the wild animals which probably you can think of, but they don't come in. And that itself is a huge market potential. Okay, so when we shot, so we are shooting a film right now, is a real Jungle Book. It's that we took all the 5 characters of the Jungle Book, and all 5 are in India, and we are tracking them for last 3 seasons. So and we are shooting them right from the baby to the adulthood and to the kids. So we are walking across all the jungles of India. There are 7 crews across 3 years, 3 seasons complete. So that film gave me a lot of perspective about the jungles in India, and the habitats and the animals, the wildlife of India. It's huge potential. And if we talk about wildlife, people think about Africa, but amazing diversities there. If just Karnataka itself has a huge diversity in terms of wildlife. You can find so many, whether it's water animals or whether it's amphibians, that's wildlife, tigers or elephants, anything, you'll find them. So the point is, these are the subsectors which India should identify, especially wildlife and other documentaries, which has huge investment potential, and create this
Right.
clearance window to support. And this has to have a clear communication through this portal. So these two are interlinked. These two things, there are many things which I can speak, but since you asked specifically two, these are the two most important things what India can do and create. And I see a business potential more than $100 billion every year, which is not small.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a very clear theme that's coming out. I think everyone is just talking about that. Clear. Ma'am, moving to you, I'm just a bit more about the Film Facilitation Office. How is it really helping the filmmakers? The kind of process that it follows, the timelines that are required to kind of take permissions and start shooting. A bit about that.
See, India is a diverse country with varieties of culture, varieties of tradition, beautiful heritage, glorious past history, right? And it has, if you see, it offers beautiful architectures as well. So for a shooting point of line, everything is already there. I somehow feel it's already a set in itself. But main problem here is getting permission from various states wherever the filmmaker is trying to shoot. So in order to ease out on that, in order to facilitate that, the union government has come up with, I told you about the Film Facilitation Office. Ministry of INB has created Film Facilitation Office under NFDC. So within that, it kind of plays a vital role as in getting all the permission done to ease out a filmmaker. And likewise, serially now, it depends on the state government who are taking those initiative or not. So, but our state, like Sikkim, for an example, has taken up the similar step. So we have created Film Facilitation Office. So we are working on that. And likewise, I feel like it's responsible for other states as well to take up FFOs. Because if each and every state has FFOs, I just heard problems from the director's point of view that, it's difficult to get the permissions. It's difficult to get the liaison work and, with the hotel accommodation through logistics support and all the support from the government and even the people there, the locals. And, so from a business point of view, having FFO is very, very important. It's very crucial, for any film to be made in a particular area. So that way is if FFOs, what's the role of FFO if you see it's not just working out on the permission, to also give access online, digitally, wherein whatever their requirements are, starting from artist, or maybe pool of talents if they already have in a data bank, so it will be easy for them to look out what they actually want. So if we can have work more on digital platform through having a proper unified, not just only in states, but India as a whole has a data bank of, various states wherein everything is worked out, from the shooting locations. I have brought, Sikkim government has already been, I think in this case, it's pretty forward. We have already launched a film catalog wherein we have 100 film shooting destination as well. So it's on your table right across. You don't have to go for a Reiki. You don't have to travel. You can cut down your time. So and then you can get that in e-copy as well. So I think if FFOs could the role of FFO is also to ease out for the filmmaker for Reiki, shooting, and giving permission, single window clearance, and many other things. So it's very important for a film part of view, for entire film fraternity, starting from direction, production, or maybe, not just, and we also need to talk about film tourism. we are just talking on skilling and film growth. But if you see, as a whole, India needs to grow on film tourism, like, because if through films, that idea comes, like, for example, Miami is a place where you go for a vacation, vacation on Miami beach. That's how a film is created on your mind. That's your state of mind. So it's not just state of art, it's state of mind, so it can take you anywhere. So if we make such things appear, so I think I think it'll be work like a wonderful medium, government taking up such roles, such as creating FFOs. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a good way to bring an end to this session. Clearly, FFOs are the first step, right? Of course, there's a lot that needs to be done. But I think on one very important point that you made, which is film tourism, right? I think we've all been talking about it, but I think we as an organization are also very, very keen. In fact, we had a conversation with a few people, and in fact, the work starts from our side, at least when we get back to Delhi. So I think this is a great way to kind of start. But I think there are a lot of key points that have been discussed, a lot of valuable inputs that have been shared by you also. Thank you very much. I'm sure somebody from FICCI has taken down these notes, because I think what we now need to do is kind of start putting things into action, right? So I think FICCI will have to work with the central and state governments to come up with something that is kind of meaningful and that solves for the asks that you have, because the intent is, like the session is aptly named, India is the most favorable shooting destinations. There's a lot that needs to be done. But thank you very much for your inputs, and thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
This afternoon, we are holding a session on reimagining the Indian cinema experience, overview and development perspective. The session will be moderated by Mr. Akshay Rathi, Director, Ashirwad Theatres. And our speakers to come on the dais will be Mr. Kapil Agarwal, Joint MD UFO, Mr. Kamal Gyanchandani, CEO PVR Pictures, Mr. Said Salim, MD Q Cinema and ORS Mall, and Mr. Satyajit Bindharkar, COO Star Cinemas. I'd like you to come on the dais. The session is live, so we have a live audience and the links are available for you. Our team behind would be happy to share that.
Very good evening to all of you, and thank you to the esteemed panel here for being here and making your presence felt at the Dubai Expo. Truly honored to have all of you at a global forum like the Dubai Expo to speak about that one sector that links all of us, which is theatrical exhibition. To begin this conversation, the topic is reimagining the cinema experience, and this actually has multiple contexts. One, of course, is the brilliant technological advancements that are happening in this sector. The other thing that's actually pressed the reset button in some context is the pandemic that we're hopefully emerging out of right now. So to begin this conversation, let me go in the order of seating. Start with Kapilji. So it's been over a decade and a half since UFO Movies has been into the business of servicing the movie exhibition sector. Possibly one of the largest entertainment tech companies that's Indian, but not operating just in India, but various other countries, including the Middle East, with a very large market share and a lot of respect and credibility and contribution to it. Sir, UFO Movies definitely gets the largest credit for digitizing the Indian exhibition sector. I'd really like you to speak about the process and the impact that this whole it's the difference is the change of era versus the change of years in terms of the impact that UFO's digitization processes brought into play. Of course, there's small incremental advancements that happen in the quality of digital projectors. You go from non-DCI cinemas to 2K to 4K, but the whole digitization process has really created the backbone of a whole new system. I'd really like you to speak a little bit about the impact that this process has had, to which UFOs contributed so greatly.
Thank you, Akshay. So, you see, there are two aspects in terms of the enhancing the theatrical experience, and particularly in the context of India. The one is the enhancing the experience, the cinema viewing experience. That means better projectors, better projection systems, better seating, food, moving from popcorn to other areas of providing the experience. But I think the most important aspect of cinema in a country like India has been taking the content to the audiences. So basically, what was happening in India, whenever in the good old, so other shift was from analog to digital. So one was the enhancement of the cinema viewing experience, one was reaching the content. So in the analog era, the reach of the content, because of very limited investment, very limited number of reels having been made because of the very heavy cost of reels and also the logistics challenges. While the demand was being created, the reels were not reaching because enough reels were not made. Now, shift from analog to digital, which we have fortunately been an integral part of in India, in UFO Movies, in digitization process right from when we started in 2005, when there was no digital cinema literally in India, and we introduced a digital cinema. What it changed was, one, it enhanced the reach. So if a blockbuster movie in 2005, pre-2005, or I would say pre-2007-8, when we achieved a critical mass of like, say, 1,000, 1,500 screens by 2007-8, a blockbuster film, like a Yashraj film, a Karan Johar film, would be made with, say, 500 prints. And a small movie, like a Page 3, released, I remember, with 60 prints. Now, that means the movie will go only to 500 screens. Versus now you see Bahubali, because of the digital, in the same cost of 5, 6, 700 prints, it went to 5,000. So what digital cinema helped, this technological advancement, which is not only reimagining going forward, has been a very, very important part of this journey. A shift, 100-year-old technology, the shift from the 100-year-old way of doing things. The shift it brought was, one, it provided the reach. So when instead of 500 screens, a blockbuster can now go to 5,000 screens, which means this digital shift created the first 100 crore club in 2008-9, then 200 crore club and 300 crore club, and with the Bahubali 500 crore club. So that was one major shift which happened because of the digitization. So I am distinguishing between the experiences sitting in Dubai versus India, because India is again, Dubai is Dubai, UAE is UAE, but India is India and Bharat. So while the content was reaching India, the reels were reaching India, they were not reaching Bharat. So that, the second, I think the most impactful, most important impact has been speed to the market. In the context enhancement. So I just took the name of, Page 3. Page 3 was made with 60 prints, and the movie was a hit. Now, by the time they ordered additional prints, because there was more demand coming from the market, there were, by the time they placed the order for additional prints, it would take a week to produce the prints, 3, 4, 5 days. Then logistically, they have to be carried to different parts of the country. By the time the prints reached, additional prints reached, the week was over, new movies came, the movie was killed. It was a hugely popular movie. Why I took the example of that movie, I'll give you the context. Now, from a pre-2005 era, Page 3, now I take you to last week. A movie called Kashmir Files released. It's all in our recent memory. Kashmir Files released, I think, with less than 500 prints across the country. It was a small budget movie. Just see what happened to that movie. Next week, next day, after Friday, by Friday evening, we started getting orders from the producer to enhance that movie. And by click of a button, because we deploy the digital cinema, the satellite technology, we deliver movies into theaters via satellite, and all our KDMs the licensing goes via satellite. We got the order, overnight enhance it from 500 to 1500, done. Next day, 2,000, 2,500 screens, done. Result is, I think, in front of all of us. I don't have to give the numbers. From 3.5 crore revenue on day 1, I think day 2 was 8 crores, day 3 was 11.5 crore, day 4 was 14.5 crores, 18 crores, 20 crores. On day 4 yesterday, it was 25 crores. So this is the magic, this transformation. So one, in the first week itself, whether the movie is popular or unpopular, even if the movie is a flop, I think the enhanced reach on day 1 multiplied. So first weekend, as we always say, mostly, except in movies like Kashmir Files, writes the P&L, profit and loss of any film, the first weekend. And weekend has to be sold in advance. So that, plus the enhancement post-release of the movie. So that is a very, very important aspect. So I think so I would say that although the topic is reimagining cinema viewing experience, exhibition experience, I would say this is exactly what we reimagined. In 2004, 2005, we spearheaded that movement and provided reach to Bharat, every nook and corner. I have delegation from Sikkim sitting here, even movies never reach Sikkim. in those days, those seven sisters in the northeast. Movies never reached because the prints would reach after 2 or 3 weeks. Logistical challenges. Physically, they had to be carried. Now we have cinema even in Andaman and Nicobar. In the previous session, we talked about Andaman and Nicobar. Mr. Mundra talked about it. We have cinema in Andaman and Nicobar. We have cinema in, and when the movie releases in Mumbai, Delhi, in the top circuits, it releases in every nook and corner of the country. So I think that is one transformational change which has already taken place, and we have been fortunate enough to also be part of the entire digital movement in the Middle East. So from UAE, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, Lebanon, I think we pretty much did 100% of the digitization in this region as well. Thank you.
That's indeed incredible and commendable.
Can I add a point to what Kapilji said? Apart from safe delivery, scalability, this quick scale up to multiple thousands of screens, and of course, wide release and reach and penetration. Can you? The other advantage which got created because of digitization of cinema's projection system is that the producers were encouraged to do very aggressive front-ended marketing. This concept used to be an alien concept because producers used to release films in 200 theaters or 300 theaters, and suddenly now you were releasing films in 1,000, 2,000 theaters. And as a result, the producers started marketing the films quite aggressively. And that has aided the box office that we see today, the growth of multiplexes. So indirectly, digitization has actually created the multiplex sector in the shape and form that you see it today.
That's actually a very interesting insight in that sense. So, Kapilji spoke about, how content could widely reach every nook and corner of the country. But when that happens and the customer walks in, what companies like PVR have been pioneers of in India is changing the experiential aspect of moviegoers when they walk in. Back in the day, there was actually an era where the quality of exhibition infrastructure had deteriorated significantly. And then in came companies like PVR, Inox, and a whole lot of others, which uplifted the standards, the infrastructure, the quality of amenities, and not just improved it, but also added so many amenities which were possibly not even imagined by the exhibition sector back then. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I walk it, when I go to a PVR cinema, in the metros at least, being a food connoisseur and a Japanese food fan, I would have never imagined being able to have sushi in a cinema till a few years ago, till PVR introduced it. So while we are making these advancements technologically, in the context of the customer experience, the amenities that we throw in, if you can speak a little bit about, how we are enhancing that experience and making it so premium and exciting for people and creating an exciting outdoor recreational experience for them. So if you can speak about what's up next there.
So, various philosophers have spoken about this element that man ultimately, and when I say man, I'm including both genders, is a social animal, right? I mean, we are not wired to just stay at home. I mean, of course, pandemic was a different phase in everyone's life, and hopefully we won't have to experience this sort of a 2-year period. But otherwise, as humans, we're not wired to just be at home and just consume content and do everything sitting at home. We want to go out. It's a social need gap which exists in the lives of people. And I think in terms of out-of-home entertainment, cinema is still the cheapest and the most widely popular form of entertainment. And I think most multiplexes, most cinema chains across the world, realize much earlier than India that movie going is a discretionary choice. It's not something which is a utility in life. It's a social need gap. But you can easily afford to not watch a film and then watch it on DVD or watch it on television. You won't miss anything in life. And as a result of that, cinemas were forced to create amenities, infrastructure, facilities, services, which acted as a magnet to have people inside. One, and also which created an experience which was unmatched, which couldn't be replicated at home. Because that's the distinction between what's happening in theaters, and it's the same content ultimately, and what you're really changing is the way that content is experienced. And that's where the ambience, service, formats, technology, apart from digital technology or projector and sound, you also have multiple formats, different ways of experiencing the same content. The same movie is available on IMAX, 4DX, 3D version, 2D version, large screen format, small screen format, bespoke experiences. So all of these are ways in which we are trying to create experiences which cannot be replicated at home. So that's been the genesis of what PVR and many other colleagues in India have been trying to do. And fortunately for us, we see a lot of headroom to grow, because these experiences are not just attracting people in bigger cities, the metros, as Kapilji spoke about India, but they're also attracting people in Bharat, because ultimately people are aspirational. Not just youth, even people of our age group, people who live in small towns, are aspirational. They want to have a good time when they go out with their families. And the tendency of Indian consumers is to go large, go big on these small ticket expenditures. So, you may not have a very fancy house, you may not invest a lot of money in a big car, but when you go to a cinema, or when you go out with family to eat in a restaurant, or you go to a Starbucks or a coffee chain, you want to have a great experience. You have this aspiration, and you want your family or friends to have a great time. And I think cinema chains sort of saw this trend in the making very early. So instead of creating cinema halls which were just giving a utility of watching a film in a great black room where you had great quality in terms of projection and sound and acoustic, but they understood that the experience had to start from the time when a consumer thinks of booking a ticket. The way you market the theater, the kind of destination, the impression you leave on the customers, the digital assets that you create in terms of offering the booking option, to the lobbies that you create, which are larger than life experience, opulent, and also, a feeling of going to a place where you're treated, like the main star, right? So the experience starts from that point, and then of course the service element, whether it's the F&B products, or the, training, or the knowledge of boys who are serving the F&B products, or the usherers, or the people who man the box office. All of these small little things make a lot of difference, and cinema chains have been investing enormous time, effort, money on training people, raising the hardware. When I say hardware, I mean the look, feel, opulence of the lobbies, entrance inside the auditorium, to the softer elements, which is training people, making them much more knowledgeable, much more service oriented. And frankly, people are very happy with the experience, and they're happy to pay more in terms of ticket price. And fortunately in India, we have a lot of headroom to grow, because when you compare it to the other countries, our screen density is fairly low, which means that we can continue building theaters over the next 10-15 years, and there would not be any shortage of customers that we can cater to. So that's been the compelling thought. And on that note, back to you.
Right, so the mic goes there. Syed, so you have a very interesting bird's eye view of these two markets, the one we are sitting in and the one we're talking about, which is the Middle East and India. And again, in terms of demographics, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the scale of development of these markets, two contrasts. India, of course, is still a developing country in some sense, very aspirational, very quick with its growth. But the UAE, in terms of infrastructure, of course, is among the best in the world. Having this bird's eye view and this comparative visibility of these two markets, what do you think in the Indian exhibition sector? Learn what kind of best practices from here? Do you think, of course, India and UAE culturally are very, very different markets. But having said that, what do you think are the global best practices that India can adapt to catapult, its exhibition sector to being at the best standard they can be worldwide?
Hi, thanks Ajay for having me on the panel and appreciate that. Appreciate Vicky. We are the first Indian brand to be launched in UAE. So thanks for giving that insight on that. The culture between India and UAE is not different. It's almost the same. 30% of the population here is Indian. So, and I think even the locals have adapted a lot of the Indian culture. And content-wise, it's like India and South India where we have about 6 to 7 languages which can be played. Coming to your point of how we can enhance and adapt the UAE culture to the Indian culture is again about the exhibition, how we can do
best practices.
Best practices. So where we can adopt, like giving the service. You see, UAE is a very high standard market. You have to come up to that level of competency if you want to be in the market here. So I think once our cinemas open next month, we'll come to know what we have done to achieve that. So there are a lot. The technology-wise, we are getting the world's best technology at a best price. Again, the challenges in India will be the customs duty and importing it and all that stuff. So in UAE, we have a lot of facility for that. We have all the international companies representing. We have UFO here with us to support us. So thanks to Kapilji. This is what I feel we could learn from UAE and adapt in the Indian market. Indian market is still, there's a lot of growth, I know. But having been in the Indian market, then I thought let's shift to the UAE market where an Indian company can represent and show that even Indians can prove something to be on the international level.
Thank you, sir. Coming to you, Satyajit, sir, one benefit at some level of the pandemic in the context of entertainment is that the globe has shrunk very, very rapidly. The streaming platforms had virtually a free run through the pandemic because the theatres were shut. And one thing that's done to consumers is given them access to some very exciting content from across the world. I think a few, possibly even half a decade ago, I don't think we could have imagined a wide Indian audience sitting in India, and not just in the metros, but even in the smaller towns, enjoying K-dramas or enjoying a movie that comes out of Spain or enjoying content that comes out of Israel. So while that content has had a great run and traction on the streaming platforms, there's great scope of taking it to the theatres in India, and not just of getting global content to India, but also taking Indian content to the globe. Since you come from the backdrop of programming, where do you think is this aspect headed when it comes to the theatrical context? Are we going to now, and we've actually had BTS at PVR in India running houseful shows, which I don't think would have been possible possibly a decade ago, maybe even half a decade ago. So is the programming context going to be accelerated rapidly when it comes to the transition of content across geographies? Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Akshay. I think a lot of work that is happening on the programming front, or even the content that we are seeing, is thanks to the digitalization. I think before BTS came to India or to Dubai, we did the screening in Dubai as well. I think about 5 or 6 years back, there was a big fight of Manny Pacquiao. That was live streamed across UAE, and that was at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I remember when we started selling the tickets, we saw an exponential growth on consumers coming. So it was about, we sold approximately about 5,000 to 7,000 tickets at our chain. So I think the content was driving. Now, when you look at UAE as a market, there is already a lot of regional content that's coming. You've got Spanish movies that are being released. There is Norwegian that is being released. So there is a demand, But I feel that OTT is a platform where they have a wider choice. But when it comes to a theatrical release, the choice of this content is very limited. In terms of what we are able to provide, pre and post, in the last 3 to 4 months, we have seen that the UAE market has kind of shot up. We are looking at great numbers. I think a lot of it is also got to do with the content that we have. And, I think this coming weekend, we are releasing RRR. It's also a movie that is released by our parent company, which is Faris Films. So and it is an international movie, so that movie is multiple languages and being showcased across the world. Yeah.
Very interesting. Coming back to you, Kapilji, another aspect that has been very significant in the context of digitization and something that remains very important to every content creator, and we have a few out here, is the impact of digitization on the prevention of piracy of content. So one thing, of course, is that you reach at blitzkrieg speed to cinemas across the country and give the audience the choice of being able to watch it through a legitimate medium. But the other aspect is the physical prevention of piracy from happening. So back in the days when reels used to exist, it used to be pretty easy for anybody to run it post midnight after the shows are done and record a whole print on a camera. So what are the things that digitization has done to plug these kind of loopholes when it comes to the context of content security?
Thank you, Akshay. Before I take up your question, I just realized that in terms of digitization, I think we did the first 500 screens of PVR. We have been the partners of Salim sir in both in India and UAE, and your all cinema, I think Novo, right? We were, Star Cinemas, so we have been the partner, and also all walks reel in this region. And I also see Upasana ma'am sitting here. There, she had the first multiplex chain in the entire south of India, innovative, in Karnataka. There also we were the partners. So yours, of course, no. You also adopted other people. So I have not taken your name. So that's the reason I have not mentioned you. So, I mean, I see so many partners sitting here. It gives me a great feeling of pride. So coming back to your question, I think piracy has two aspects. In the context of digital cinema or otherwise, one is the reach itself. When you make a movie, you create the demand. Of course, like Kamal sir said, that you do more marketing when you have more reach, but still you do marketing. When you market it on TV, when you market it on radio, you market it across the country. But when it came to satiate, you created the demand. But when it came to satiating that demand in terms of, taking the content, but only 100 reels are made. You created demand, or 500 reels are made. You have created demand all over India when the people want to watch it in their nearby cinema. And cinema watching is very, very local. People don't travel 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers to watch cinema. So you created demand, and there was no way to satiate that demand. And psychologically, everybody wants to watch a film on the first weekend. So when they went to the nearby cinema, the movie was not available, they resorted to piracy. And that is how the pirates thrived. Through this digitization, the movie started being available in every cinema, nearby cinema. So that was one aspect of that. You did not kill piracy, you killed the need of piracy. So that was one very, very important aspect. Thank you. The second was the technological advancements. So when the reel was made, from the reel the piracy used to happen, screen print used to happen, the camcorder, you just didn't know from where it came. In our digital cinema technology, every show and every theater and every show in every theater across the geography, across thousands of theaters, every theater has a unique fingerprint. Every show has a unique fingerprint. And that is invisible. Nobody knows that fingerprint. So when a DVD came in the market, And when they pirated, they ran an extra show at 3 o'clock in the night. But now it was all in real time, because we are the only system in the world. We were the first company in the world to start delivering movies into theaters via satellite in 2005, and even in 2022. Even today, we are the only company in the world which can download all movies into theaters via satellite, even after 17 years. So we were always connected because of the satellite connectivity. We always had the real-time connectivity. That means you run a show on the server, we know at what time the show ran. So typically what used to happen was that people initially in 2005, 6, 7, without realizing, so like they had the habit of the analog print era, that they will run an extra show quietly in the night at 3 o'clock, put a nice camcorder, no audiences, no sound, and record it. And the prints go all over the world. And that is how the piracy used to happen. Now, initially, through the technology, they didn't realize. So first of all, when they pirated, the digital fingerprint came on the DVD. When we brought that, we used to started bringing the DVD to the lab, and we could actually inform the producers as to on which date, at what time, from which theater this DVD has been pirated. And there was a lot of resistance at that point of time, but we didn't give a choice to the people. So that was one aspect. So there were a lot of criminal cases against the theaters. Theaters were caught red-handed. Producers stopped giving them the content from the next movie onwards. They got a bad name. So that is where through technology we killed piracy. Second aspect of that was that in the real era, in the analog print era, people used to run as many shows as they want. They will, movie comes 1 day or 2 days before, they will run a show in the previous night for the family and friends. The producer doesn't know. They will run one show for piracy at 3 o'clock in the morning. So number of shows was not calculated. Through the digital technology right from 2005, we gave them license for exactly, say, if they bought 28 shows, they will get license for only 28 shows, or 14 shows in a week, or 35 shows in a week. What they bought, what they paid the producer for. They didn't realize, now they ran 2 extra shows, one for the family, one for piracy. And at the end of the week, they have sold the ticket on Thursday night, and 2 shows are gone. The server stops working. So that is how one, satiating the demand, killing the need of piracy itself. And second was the technologically, they were caught red-handed, the pirates, and that is how you kill the piracy. That is how it helped and whatever is the piracy revenue, it goes straight to the bottom line of the producer, because ultimately paid shows versus pirated shows, it's money in the system, and that is how we saw the top actors, I think in 2005 used to get 4-5 crore in remuneration. Today they are charging 40-50 crores, because more revenue, more money for the producer, more money for the actors, and in fact the whole ecosystem for the government. Thank you.
Kamalji, coming back to you, the fuel for cinemas, of course, is content. Yeah. And back in the era, before the advent of the multiplexes came in, there was a certain format of content that used to be produced. What the multiplexes also brought in is what's really coined as multiplex films, right? Which back in the day, not too many content creators could imagine creating and finding demand for, especially theatrically. Again, in the context of the pandemic that we spoke about, what we're witnessing now is a whole new consumption habit where even the definition of multiplex film is again, or the definition of cinema that works is changing again. Again, couldn't have imagined a movie like Pushpa in its Hindi version with virtually zilch marketing doing the kind of business that it did recently. Couldn't have imagined what would have 2 years ago been called a pure thoroughbred multiplex film like the Kashmir Files becoming a rage across the country. And these are just a few of the examples that we witnessed like this. So with the advent of the pandemic, where there's so much of offering, so much of variety of content that's coming the consumer's way, what do you think is going to be the change in the consumption habits, the consumption patterns in the context of people's choices to go to cinemas now? What kind of content will bring them in big numbers?
Thanks, Akshay. So firstly, just going back to the piracy question, which I think is a very important question. I think what UFO and the other colleagues of UFO have done for the sector is fantastic. But at the same time, I was slightly contrarian view because piracy continues to be the number one problem that this industry has. We lose crores and crores of money to piracy every year, and to, in a certain way, industry has sort of given up on piracy. You know, they've sort of come to this conclusion that it's very difficult to beat this social issue. This is not just a tech issue, this is actually a social problem. And I think what cinemas, the exhibitors have figured is that the way to deal with piracy is to make the experience more experiential. Because piracy can just give you the content in a very plain vanilla form, and often the quality is not so good. So if you can add bells and whistles, service, softer benefits, this whole glamorous avatar of cinemas that you see now, then the consumer of pirated content would miss out on the experience, and that would be the biggest differentiator or the roadblock vis-a-vis piracy. So if anything, I think technology has made the situation worse, because the handset and most of these handheld devices have become so powerful, because you go to a theater with a phone and you make a recording, the damage is done. Within no time, you can place it on YouTube. So these pristine quality prints are becoming more and more available because of technology, not the UFO projection sound technology, but what Apple, Samsung, and the other guys are doing with their phone. And I think the solution is to make the cinema going, movie going, much more experiential. Coming to your second question on the content, I think from audience perspective, it's either a good film or a bad film, right? I mean, they don't think of it as this is a multiplex film and this is Pushpa meant for masses, meant for singles. That's not the way they think about it. I think even when multiplexes were very small in numbers, we've had independent films. Hyderabad Blues, case in point, ran for almost 25 weeks in a lot of theatres in Bombay, now Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, many cities it ran for 25, 30 odd weeks. So indie films have always been around and they've always been popular. But I think what has happened is with multiplexes now you have more content because there are more screens. Fortunately with streaming now, there is more money coming into the system, more content being generated. And that augurs well for the consumers because they have more content to choose from. Every year when we start the year, we are always wondering, will we have enough film, as many films as we had last year? And by the time we get to the end of the year, we've always found that we've had more films as compared to the previous year. So more films are being made because audiences were always receptive for differentiated films. They want to watch these big films with big stars, big production values, commercial films. But they also want to watch, there is also a discerning audience segment which wants to watch cutting edge, differentiated, content driven films. Kashmir Files, a case in point, of course, has had a connection that we've not seen before. But there have been many other examples of smaller films doing disproportionate business. So ultimately, it's the box office collection which will determine whether it's a blockbuster film or not such a successful film. Audiences, they've always wanted to have more choices. Fortunately, now we have revenue streams, we have box office numbers, which are augmenting the number of films, and that I think is helping the overall sector.
Sure. So because, the conversation has veered towards piracy and it's really an important conversation. So you said that the industry at some level has given up on piracy, but then there are markets where we see better law implementation around piracy, which possibly is something that's not optimal in India. So since you operate in the UAE, which is a market that's known for great law implementation, again, what are the differences that you see in the context of law implementation against piracy between India and the Middle East? And second, again, what do you think can India do better? And especially since this is a forum which is, at some level hosted by the INB Ministry, I think it's a very relevant point that deserves to be made here.
Thank you, Akshay. See, the main thing is the law and how it is implemented. That's the vital point. Here, you do anything, there's a fine. And the fines are big in numbers. I don't think India can adapt to that level of fines, and then with having so much of bureaucracy and everything going around with political clouds and all these things, it's very difficult to control piracy in India. I think to a larger extent, Kapil ji will agree with me that UAE is not in that bracket of piracy, mainly because of the laws. The laws are very strict and we respect it. And it gives a lot of impetus to us to work with them in that aspect. So I feel if India can put in laws like that, it would be great. But again, it is a political win who takes it.
Sure. Satyajit, so you've again been a part of, through your career, global cinema chains. I think one thing that the government of India aspires for and the entire sector deserves, or rather has the demand for, is investments into the exhibition sector in India. While there is the unorganized and the organized exhibition sector, as Kamalji rightly pointed out, for the next 10 to 15 years, maybe longer, there is scope to build more and more screens. There is scope to develop the market, especially the tier 2, tier 3 towns. There's great appetite for content. It's just about reaching there with the exhibition infrastructure. PVR, in fact, the genesis of it is where Village Roadshow, an Australian company, came in, partnered with an Indian company to give it the impetus to go on to become what it did at some level. What do you think can India do to attract FDI further into the Indian exhibition sector? We've had a Cinepolis come and do it, but there's great scope for a dozen of those to really come in and look at the India market, which somewhere is poised for growth. So what needs to be done to get more entities to come and invest and participate in the growth story of India's exhibition sector?
So you touched upon a very interesting topic, which was tier 2 and tier 3. So when you actually look at, and this was mentioned earlier, the screen density in India is extremely low. We are at about 9,000 plus, as against US, which is probably 55, and which is exactly. Yeah, and I remember there was a YouTube video by I think the chairman of Carnival, where he said that if you want to watch a movie in India, you've got to actually go at an average about 8 kilometers to watch it. So while the metros are well populated with beautiful chains, PVR is number one there. You got Inox, but the tier 2 and tier 3 is an area which is still not completely handled, I would say. I remember there was some discussion on, I think PVR had taken up a couple of pre-pandemic, the whole concept of Utsav, which was a, value chain cinema. Yeah. So that is one. On the front of investments, I've lived in Dubai for more than 20 years now. What I was given to understand is the duties or all the other customs and all the other government regulations do tend to become a little difficult for other cinema chains to come in. Cinepolis, for that matter. Cinepolis did have big plans when they came, and now it's probably fourth or fifth in terms of the top 5 when you're looking at it. So there is a struggle. When you look at UAE, there are all the UAE operators who are actually looking at Saudi Arabia. Because there is a potential. And again, the laws, the regulations, and the way to go about it is much more easier and simpler. What does a brand need when it comes to any country is ease of doing business. So I think that is very important, and that needs to be looked at.
Sure, those have been extremely incredible insights, and I think what I gather from all the thoughts that have come my way, in fact, the audience's way from all of you, is that yes, while we do have some roadblocks and speed breakers, we certainly are on the highway to, some great opportunities, some great growth, some great consumption, some great success stories that would come out of the reimagined theatrical exhibition sector in India. So here's looking forward to more movies. Here's looking forward to our emergence from the pandemic. If the last few weeks are any indicator, I certainly think that we are looking at what's been called a V-shaped recovery, with movies right from Gangubai to Spider-Man to 83 to Jhund to regional movies like Pavankhand, E.T., Bhimla Nayak doing phenomenally well. And here's hoping that all of us have a great journey ahead as we emerge from the pandemic. So thank you, gentlemen, for your insights. In fact, sure. So any questions that we have from the audience, we have the time to be able to get answers from them with a raise of hands if anybody has them. So I think that indicates that you've all been very comprehensive with your insights. So well done, gentlemen. And thank you for being here. And thank you, all of you, for being a wonderful audience. Have a good evening.
Director R.K. Uday Kumar. Sir, please come. R.V. Uday Kumar, sir. ரொம்ப கஷ்டமாக இருக்குதுங்க சார். This is going live. Before that, you have some person to honor you. Please. எனக்கு வேண்டாம். யா யா Chief. Come. No problem.
Fortnight.
From where? From Chennai. You're from? Chennai.
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker, producer.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. This is the session of South Indian films, how it has grown and how it has taken bigger wings. I'll straight go to Mr. A.L. Vijay. A.L. Vijay. He is one of the young, dynamic. He has directed umpty number of films for the best. And he is from a director who has gone from south to north. The director who is sitting here has gone to south to north and successful. And he is having another 3 more films. He was an associate director of Priyadarshan. It is from there he has taken. So that's why you have taken the Priyadarshan route to going to north, Hindi.
Thank you, sir.
Can you just say how from south to north the films has been travelled pan-India?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, sir. Today I think the new term has come. It's called pan-Indian film. Everywhere people start calling it pan-Indian film. Thanks to Bahubali, it's opened a lot of doors. That's the actual thing. We should all appreciate it. Sir, for me, I think art doesn't have a barrier for language. So for me personally, because I'm blessed to work with Priyadarshan sir, because when I was working as assistant itself, I was working in Malayalam, Hindi, and Tamil. So I got exposure for all three languages when I was working as assistant director. So when I started my career, I started as a art film maker. So when I started art film maker, before I started films, at least I've done 100 commercials before starting my first film. So till now, today I've done some 200 commercials I've directed. So I got a greater exposure to work with multiple industries because I was shooting for Bangalore commercials, Kannada commercial. I was shooting for Hindi commercials. I was shooting for international commercials. So I was got into access of all these things. When come to terms of talking about films, what is the best part is the content is becoming global now because everywhere if you're looking at Tamil film, a good content film is releasing. Immediately they want to remake in Hindi or any other language. Or Telugu or it has happened always, but now I think it's very, very obvious because after the digital the growth has been phenomenal after this blessing in disguise of COVID. So everyone access to every film. So that is the most important thing. And also everybody started appreciating work, whatever South is happening, especially a talent like Fahad Fasil, a talent like Vijay Sethupathi sir. People are noticing them. People are appreciating them. They want to cast in
Both
Hindi.
of them have got multi-language film.
That's
They
what
are
I'm-
busy in Hindi, Malayalam,
That's what I'm
Tamil.
saying. Vijay Sethupathi sir is doing at least 4 films in Hindi right now. Naga Chaitanya is doing a Hindi film. So that's what it's become a pan-India now. It's become an Indian film. So I remember those days when we're shooting in London or when we're shooting abroad. When we shoot, they come and ask us which film is this. When I start talking about it's a Tamil film, they say Bollywood. They only call it Bollywood. Now they started calling it the Indian film. I think that's the best.
It's a very good transformation. From a Bollywood, it has become an Indian film.
Yeah.
That's a big transformation.
Yes, because for them, every film is Bollywood. They won't understand it's a Tamil or anything. See, I'll be shooting in somewhere in Lake District in London, sorry, UK. It's a very far from 400 miles from London. So you can't go and explain to an Englishman which I'm coming from Tamil Nadu, I'm doing a Tamil film. So now the perspective has changed. People have started looking this is an Indian film and a lot of respect is there for that. And one main reason is definitely we have to give to Bahubali because that has taken for rights and all of us. And
It opened the eyes for everybody.
yes, definitely, no, undoubtedly. And also, the example, now all these Hindi films, they want to have Tamil cast. See, now they want to have Tamil actors on there as a character. Nasir sir, look at Nasir sir. He's becoming an Indian actor. Though he's come from Tamil, he's become an Indian actor. Look at Arvind Swamy sir. He's doing multiple Hindi language films. So even the North people started looking at the talents, not only technicians I'm talking about. If you look at a technical aspect wise, you are best of cameramans all from Tamil Nadu. Today morning I was discussing with Archellam.
That's very good. Tamil and Malayalam rules.
Yes. So why also they like this, the discipline we follow. It is some important factor because I have a lot of friends in Bollywood, means in the industry. So they always say that a Tamil cameraman or South Indian cameraman are always very well disciplined in terms of work culture. So if it's a 7 o'clock shift, your lighting is ready at 7 o'clock. It's not lighting starting at 7 o'clock. So those cultures are, because we have been groomed by our PC Sriram sir and Santosh Shivan sir and Ravi K. Chandran sir. So all this, their assistants only is dominating the Bollywood. So I think it is South industry is becoming a big bridge between Indian industry. That's what I can say.
Very nice. Now I'm coming to Alankar. Alankar is the one person who produces film from Malayalam to Kannada to Tamil to Hindi. He's the one pan-India producer and is making a pan-India movie with Sudeep Vikrant Rona. What's your thing? How you came from Malayalam, Tamil, Kannada and Hindi? You're the only producer doing all the 4 languages.
If you look at the reason why we have come into the industry is because we had an affection towards Indian movies. And what we could see is like the number of movies which is coming out from the South, it didn't have the purview or the kind of routing mechanism to get into the mainstreams. This is why we are finding a lot of backlogs of the prominent producers or directors from South not able to showcase the movies in the right format. So that was the main aim, is to get into like how to pave a path for them and ensure that they get the right price or right yield for their product. The product is nothing but the film. Now, when we did that, we did come across good talents coming in from content in terms of Bollywood also. So, keeping that in mind, we would like to give talent or give importance to the content, even in Hindi movies, pertaining to good content and eager to work directors. So our concept has been a little bit different versus North versus South. South is where like paving a path for them to how to broadcast or showcase the products. But in Hindi, we like to partner with people who have an eagerness for filmmaking. So these are the two parameters what we wanted to do. But yes, if we talk about the ease of working with South Indian movies, yes, it is there. But the recent one, what we're doing with Vikrantana, it's pulled a lot of time. So we can't say that this particular movie will be at a particular wavelength, we'll be able to finish it. Because South means we always say that there's a stipulated time of production and it comes out in the right time. So this movie being a big budget movie, so it had to take that kind of toil in terms of time and efforts. We as Invenio Group, we're looking for good content. So when it comes to good content, is somewhere we'll have to look at the scripting stage itself. So we are working parallelly with a lot of people at this scripting stage itself to ensure that what kind of content which will come on paper and how much money can be infused on that to get that paper into reality. So this is where we are like to put our efforts into it going forward.
Nice. Straight away from 2020s, I'm going to 80s and 90s. Selvamani sir, you are the person from 80s. That time there was no digital. The TV has just come. The shooting is difficult. All the thing. That era to this era, how South film was there that time. And now you're the director, association president, as well as the 24 Craft president. How do you see it was in 80s, 90s? Now 2020, how it has transformed South to a larger spec. How do you take it forward, sir?
Yes, as I said, my first film was released in the year of 1990. That time, that film was a blockbuster in Tamil Nadu. Then they dubbed it in that Telugu and they remade it in Hindi. They liked the content.
In 90s only they remade it in Hindi.
Yeah, remake it in Hindi.
In what is the Hindi film name? Any idea?
I don't know. Midun Chakravarti did the film. Yeah, I don't know the name. Like other things, because now the country becoming a single country now. Because previously, one village ration shop cannot buy that people cannot buy a ration from the other village. It spreaded. One district people go to next district, they can buy now. Now one state resident Tamil Nadu residents, they can buy a ration now from Andhra Pradesh or from Gujarat or from Delhi, because if he is a nation of India, he can buy from anywhere else. They united together. Like that, film also is got developed. Previously, we don't have any facilities. We have to either dub it or remake it. It is not a new thing now. Previously, when even in 50s or 60s, every film they did in Tamil, they remake in, at that time dubbing is not entertained by the people. They remake in other languages in 60s or 70s. 80s, when after film institute students come to the film industry, they did a movies in grand manners, or either Abhavanan or myself or some Arvind Raj like that. That film was did in a spectacular way. They without remaking it, they just dubbed it in other languages. After innovation of satellite or digital, no need of dubbing it. A single print can have a multiple soundtracks. It has a Tamil soundtrack, it has a Telugu soundtrack, or it has a Hindi also. So we no need of getting another negatives. You can use the same negatives, so that it is a little went ahead. So a single print can be used for the all languages. Then ALVJ said no, as I told. Previously, if I use a single artist from other languages, people will identify, no, this is not our hero, or this is not our comedian, he is from Telugu, oh, this film was partly dubbed into Tamil or Telugu, like that. They will not identify with the other language people. That was the big flaws or big burden for the film producers or directors. Nowadays, people are used to identify with everybody, because slowly Tamil producers or directors brought some. Previously, only we will use the Hindi heroines in our films. We will not use any other character artists from Hindi or other languages. After some times in 2000 or end of the 90s, we brought some villains like that. We brought some villains or some character artists like that. Then digital era started. What happened? Every producer want to show their film as a native of their own state. So they keep one artist from Malayalam, they keep one artist from Tamil Nadu, they keep one artist from Andhra Pradesh, they keep one artist from Hindi. Like that, they made it like that. Very first, it was not welcomed by the audience. Afterwards, after 2010 or 2050s, especially in the period of Corona, after OTT is dominated because all the theaters closed by the Corona epidemic. So what happened? Every film, it's lost their identity. Nobody can say this is Tamil film or this is Malayalam film or this is Hindi film, like that. So we are now creators or directors, when they are creating itself, they want to release the film all over India. So creating the content in the content form itself, they are getting a cultural, from the cultural, they are bringing all the cultures together. They are making stories like that. So what happened nowadays? Every people want to see that film as he told A.L. Vijay. Not only UK. In previously, even our directors or our technicians, they said, hey, he is from south, he is from north, he is from west, like that. Nowadays, every director became an Indian director. Nobody has a Tamil director or nobody become Hindi director. Because everybody else knows everyone. South Indian people knows Vijay, North Indian people knows Vijay. And South Indian people knows Rajamouli, even North Indian people knows Rajamouli. So that everybody got familiar with throughout nation. Nowadays, the big picture become the property of nation, not the state film, regional film, like that. So it is one step ahead. But what happened here? These kind of films, our first task is to identify all the regions, so it will lose their own identity. You cannot produce a like film Padanar Vaidinile or Mother India. At the time they did Mother India into Hindi, they remake it. They made Padanar Vaidinile in Tamil, they remake it in Hindi. Now it will be very difficult to produce that kind of films, root films. It will be very difficult. So that will be a little minus. But in future, after some time, that will also grow. Now it is destroyed by this culture, pan-India culture. But after some time, definitely, people they will like, oh, I want a film, it reflects my culture. After that, it will come. Same way, both will be entertained by the people. So nowadays, because of the technology, the regional film become national film. So we all become the national technicians now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Uday Kumar, sir, you have directed with Rajinikanth, Kamal Haasan, Vijayakant, Shivaji Ganeshan. You have directed with every person, the stalwart. For those days, South films and present South films. Now you are the secretary of the Director Association, and so how you are seeing the South film from those big stars, let it be Rajnikant sir, Kamal Haasan sir, present they are there, and those days Vijayakant sir and Shivaji Ganeshan. How do you feel a change from that stage to this?
First of all, I would like to thank our Indian Information Ministry for us to be here. The reason being our friend, Innovative Film Academy Chairman, Mr. Prasad sir, and Upasana madam, and his heart and soul sitting next to us, Mr. Alangar Pandian. And I thank the people sitting along with me, Mr. R.K. Selvamani and Mr. A.L. Vijay, beautiful filmmakers who reflected the South Indian success in cinema. So myself and Selvamani are product of Film Institute, Adayar Film in MGR Film and Television Institute from Chennai. And there were only 10 direction students, 10 cinematographers. Like that, we form a group and we make a movie during our academic period. And among that, one of our senior, Abba Vanan, gave a super hit movie by name Umai Viligal. I was just next year junior to him, and Selvamani next to me, 3 years or 2 years, 3 years junior to me. So that Abba Vanan's film gave a very big hit, and we are the one who made first movie as a digital cinema, a digital sound, that Umai Viligan and other things. So we gave him DTS, we gave importance to the multi-technical qualities of a movie. First time, everybody was cursing, no, this sort of a cinema scope was, those days was a minus point. Because they used to tell when the Film Institute student come out with a huge cinema scope movie, they used to discourage us by telling what Raja Solan, Shivaji Ganeshan movie is a flop, and that movie is a flop. That movie, don't go in for cinema scope. At that time, he took a challenge. Mr. Abhavanan took a challenge. We were all working for him. And that movie has touched him because of Mr. Vijayakant, who encouraged us, actor Vijayakant. He is one of the only one person who has encouraged our Film Institute graduates, even though he is not a graduate. So we thank him also at this juncture, because we would like to, he's been given dates for me, and he made Selvamani as a director, first of all. So that's all finest things. So my first movie was with Prabhu and Karthik, and I made by name titled Reimagining. And that was a super hit movie. That was remade by some big producer with megastar in Telugu, Chiranjeevi. And my film has been remade in several other languages, small languages, Bhojpuri, Nagalanda, some Punjab, and all other languages they remade. I don't know at that time. And then later on, I remade a movie from Hindi. That was Hukumat. That was with the hero was here Shivaji Ganeshan Satyaraj did. And that movie was a super hit movie and a re-entry for Dharmendra, Hukumat, at that time. That was my second movie. My first movie gave a very big break because I took, my producer was not able to produce a CinemaScope movie.
I made this 35 format into a CinemaScope format and blown it up. That is the biggest process. That was the first movie which was shot in 35 in that 4 frames, four slots will be there. In that we will squeeze that frame. One frame is squeezed into a CinemaScope format. Then we shot like that. That was the first technique we found out. We sat and worked out, and it was success. And it was released in the entire theatre as a CinemaScope movie, but it's not shot in that CinemaScope format. So that movie was a super duper hit. Before the release of the movie, I was committed with Shivaji Ganesan by a very popular producer called Satya Movies. Before the release is going to happen on 26th, but 21st I became a second film director. So that these are all beautiful things happened at those days. Because producers are sincere and all the technicians are, but even now they are all, technical people are all very sincere. But afterwards, I changed, as he was telling. Selvamani and Abba one and that category, and Mani Ratnam also joined later on in making bigger movies, huge, grandeur movies. I wanted to shoot it in 35 So I did a Kilakku Vasal. That was a super duper hit movie among the CinemaScope movies. That ran for more than 300 days. That was remade in Hindi and Sajana, some movie. Same hero, Midun Chakravarti. Sajna Sat Nibana, if I am right. All our movies have been remade. We were not pan-Indian directors at that time. We are unlucky to become
Mr. A.L. Vijay is a pan-India director now.
And afterwards, Chinna Counter, of course, Chinna Counter has become a super-duper hit. That was remade in all the South Indian languages, even Kannada, Chikka, Jamandru, here in Chinna Raidu, like that. Afterwards, Pedda Raidu came and all that. See, I always made movies for other directors to take that up into their mind, and they recreated in different subjects. So I was always been a tool for other filmmakers through my movies. They used to tell, one Kilakku Vasal became one Chinna Thambi. One Chinna Counter became a Periya Counter or Pedda Raidu, whatever it is. So like that, it gave lots of inspiration. So we have been inspired by lots of directors like John Kubrick for science fiction, and our director of Jaws, Spielberg and all that. And one side, I had an opportunity to work with one movie with Mrinal Senji in Jai Sharma. I was production assistant at that time. When I was working in Gemini Studios, I was a production assistant to him. That movie's name is a very good movie. I forgot that. And then I used to sit down along with Satyajit Ray ji for editing and all during my tenure as an employee in Gemini Color Studios. So he used to shoot there. She used to edit, and he used to do all his post-production works there, Mr. Satyajit Ray. And Sandeep Rai, his son, also he will be associating, and we will all be sitting and just watching how he is. So later on, he became a very close to heart, and he always hugs me and puts his there. Whenever he goes out for a walk, he used to take me. So such a genius touches and all we had in those days. I'm very happy to, because we are also global. I mean, Indian at that time, pan-Indian. Because I worked with, Genesis. Genesis is the movie directed by Mrinal Senji at that time. So these are all different things. And yesterday, when I was really thrilled to see Mr. Sagar Kapoorji, because I was very big fan of Sagar Kapoor during my student days. When I saw Masoom, that was a wonderful movie that really touched the hearts of so many people. He's a fantastic creator. So like that, afterwards, we have to fall into the pool of commercial cinema. Otherwise, so always when Film Institute graduates, when they come out and try for to become a directors or creators in the outside in the commercial industry, they won't allow us. These people will make only the naturalistic cinema and all art cinema. They won't be able to generate money. They are not fit for the industry. So we broke. Mr. Abhavanan, myself, and definitely it can be written in the history. Abhavanan, Uday Kumar, and R.K. Selvamani. We rewrote. Only Film Institute graduate can make larger than anything else.
Cinema.
We made it now. I'm very happy he pronounces all our Film Institute graduates assistants only ruling now. Like P.C. Sri Ram and Ashok Kumarji and everybody. I'm very, very happy. Our travel is very long. But 80, I have started, my first movie was released in 88. I am 2 years elder to our brother. 88 to till today, we are in the cinema, we are watching cinema, we are eating cinema, we are breathing cinema. There are a lot of changes, as you said. But the creation is the one which can never be changed. If you have the content. Today, I am very happy because people have been telling, yesterday also in one session, somebody was telling, a click in a camera, it means a lot. That becomes a content. A small shot I saw during this pandemic days, one small dog will be, shouting and will be expecting a body to come out. That body comes and goes and nobody is there because he is dead out of corona. The body is just put on an ambulance and nobody will be there. And the dog, here and there, it will crawl and go and get into that ambulance and sit next to its Yajman. See the touch of, this is what is important in making a movie also. So we are not only the creators. Even an ordinary man becomes a creator when he watch a different thing, different emotion. So contents can be derived from any party, any way, any angle. So I am very happy to be associated with the past, present, and the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the session. Very nice. So it's nice. Thanks to FICCI. Thanks to MB Ministry. Thanks to the Director Association to take their time out and come. Thank you very much.